My name is Bruce Gillies, and I'm in conjunction with Cindy Grether. We're going to talk to you a little bit about our perspectives on quality in education, how we go about measuring quality in education. As I was, let me ask you this, how many of you took a shower this morning? Not that I smell anybody or anything. How many of you looked and read the actual shampoo bottle that you used? Anybody? There was a word on there that kind of surprised me, and you know, you see it all the time on shampoos, but I never really thought about what it meant. It said volumizing. Do we have any engineers in here? No? Any engineers? Well, I think if you ask an engineer what volumizing meant, they would say, well, it's to increase volume, but volume is relatively static quality of things. I mean, you can't add any more volume to your gas tank. It's there. The volume is what it is. So I thought, well, what the heck does volumizing mean? And you know, the more I thought about it, the more I was thinking about what does it mean? How can I integrate that into my discussion today? So I want you guys to count how many times I use that word, volumizing. You know, how many times Cindy uses volumizing today on our presentation. Well, we're going to talk again a little bit about quality. One of the big questions about quality is, what is quality? How do you measure quality? How would you measure quality in an automobile? Each one of you is going to have a different thing that you look for when you measure quality in a car. And who is to determine what the quality of that car is? For me, a quality car only has 2 wheels. It's a motorcycle. For somebody else, it might say, well, I got to have really good gas mileage, or I have to be able to do 240 miles an hour, you know, and I need a Ferrari. That's a quality car. Somebody else might say, well, it is the lack of maintenance that I have to spend on it, or something along those lines. One of my favorite books, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, talked about quality from the perspective of you never get there. You never at quality. You're always searching for that. How many of you have read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance? Classic read. I highly recommend it for, it's not light reading. There's sections you're going to have to go through very quickly because it gets kind of long and boring, but fascinating read on the perspectives of quality and one man's search for quality as a professor, actually, at the University of Chicago. But again, we're always looking for that quality. We're always looking to improve the quality of our product, right? Of our online classes, of our teaching, of our lives. We're always looking for that extra little bit of what is a quality life. And if I ask you how many of you have a quality life right now, you say, I have a quality life. Well, how do you measure that? How do you measure the quality of life? So we wanted to find out what exactly is meant by quality in online education. So this is our perspective on what quality actually means. Now imagine back 150 years ago, and I know probably nobody here was teaching then, but back 150 years ago to a one-room classroom. Imagine yourself, it's November, Minnesota, Little House on the Prairie type of a situation, and you're walking through the snow to that classroom. And as you walk into the classroom, it's cold outside, you get inside and you notice the classroom, 10 to 12 rows of students aging in range from 5 up to 17, all in the same classroom. The fireplace is on to provide some heat. Everybody has wooden desks, various books and levels. How do you manage that course? How do you get in there and make sure that learning is happening in a course like that? And when you think about that and the challenges that folks back then had to go through in order to be able to make sure that learning happened at whatever quality level they decided, a lot of it transfers over to the classroom today. A lot of it transfers over to the classroom today. And we're going to come back and revisit this again at the end when we think about that. And when we think about how do we expand the opportunity to create a learning environment that's going to be successful in meeting those different levels of students. And again, the similarities between the schoolhouse and classroom today are many. For one is you go into a classroom and you don't know who the students are going to be. You have various levels of students that are at various levels of learning. You have various tools at your hand that you can use to try and meet the learning requirements of all the different students, whether they're visual, audio, or kinesthetic learners. So the classroom has changed in the delivery method, but the learning has not changed that much over the last 150 years. So we have to figure out how do we take what we've learned from that one-room schoolhouse, translate it over to the classroom of today. Next slide is Cindy's.
All right. Now everybody, first of all, my name is Cindy Grether. I'm from California Lutheran University, so we came a long ways to get here today. And when you registered for the conference today, or yesterday, you probably got a knapsack, and inside was a book. And this is a Learning House book that Learning House created. This one's by Victoria Alexander, and it's about quality online courses, and it's a writer's guide. And I just wanted to touch base on that a little bit to tell you a little bit about what that's about. And one of the things that they talk about in there is knowing your online learners, who they are, and some of that adult learning theory. As Bruce went back earlier and talked about that one-room class, that one-room schoolhouse, and you have different learners at different levels. So have a good idea of who your students are. And adult learning theory is one of the things they touch upon, and understanding the tools of online learning. What they do talk about also in that book is taking that face-to-face course syllabus and using it in online reference to, and converting that to an online format. So referencing back to that one-room schoolhouse, you're taking an on-campus class and then converting it to an online. So know those tools. You have to start with some measurable objectives and be sure that you have educational effectiveness in there. And when you talk about educational effectiveness, you have to have those things for your accreditation. We're WASC accredited, and so these are our measurement tools to prove to WASC that we're doing exactly what our goals are. With an online course, there's lots of preparation, lots of work goes into it when you're creating that course and creating that blueprint for others to utilize, and then personalization can come in later. And it all depends on what your institution decides you need to do for personalization. So we'll talk about that a little later. Go ahead, Bruce. Now, how does the online program contribute to the institutional strategy? Is it an accessory or a strategic contributor? The people in the room, whose online learning is a strategy? Your institutional strategy. And how many are a contributor? You know, we started our online program 7 years ago, and it was one little program, the MBA in Financial Planning program, which I'm a part of. And when we started that, it was an accessory. And since that, other online programs have come on to online. An LDIL degree program. Also, the general MBA program went online. Now our institution's at the point of deciding their strategy for online learning. And so that's where we're at right now. So we're kind of in between and making decisions there on strategically how we're going to move forward. Is it an expense or is it an investment? Once you get that strategy going, I think it's a real investment. But some institutions see it as an expense when they're first starting out, and maybe they have it as a strategic contributor. So as I was talking earlier about resources and knowing your tools that you're going to use online. So you have to know what resources you're going to be using. And faculty have to have a really good understanding between the differences of online and grounded. Some of the things that you do in a classroom, you're not going to be able to do it exactly the same way. So knowing what tools you have and how you can do it in a different way and still provide those same measurable objectives that you're striving for. The instructor is that subject matter expert, and one of the best resources you have, or the most important resource you have at an institution, is your faculty. And those expert matter specialists are the ones that pull it all together. So they're providing the content, the curriculum, and then the technology is the tool to get there. what will be your differentiation as an institution? There's lots of different ways of going about this that are out there. Some schools have no textbooks, so all the content is provided within the online course. Some institutions, faculty are only graders and readers. They're not interacting with the students as much other than providing that feedback and reading what they're saying. Faculty develop each class each term. So every term is a new term, and each faculty creates a new class each term. And there's some institutions out there that are doing it that way. And I know if you've talked amongst yourself, you'll see that there's different lengths of term. Our program, we have an 8-week term. The adult program's 11-week online. And so you have to kind of figure out what's going to best meet what your goals are. When we came on board, we were the rebels. The university had the traditional undergrad program, and then they had the graduate program that was 11 weeks, and also the adult degree program, which was 11 weeks long. And then we decided to do the 8-week program. And the reason that we decided to do the 8-week program is online is pretty intense. And to spread it out over a longer period of time, you kind of lose that momentum as you go along. And that was part of the decision making that we did in changing it to an 8-week program. Do you have any comments to say?
Well, one of the aspects of this is, of course, that many institutions, depending on their targeted students that they're looking for, might want to focus on that. I know one institution doesn't use any textbooks at all because they're focusing on active duty military people that are overseas. So they don't want to have to worry about getting textbooks to them and everything. So everything is online, everything is accessible to them. All the lectures are online. The faculty are responsible for finding the references and the supporting materials for the students to be able to use that. And they have the videos of the faculty members embedded into the actual course itself. So they don't use any textbooks at all. In some organizations, again, the continuum between faculty only used as readers and graders. Some institutions don't want to have that opportunity for faculty to get in there and change the courses. They want a static course that you go in there, you grade papers, you read papers, and you provide feedback on them, and that's all that the faculty have to do, the adjunct faculty. The course development people are members, full-time members of the organization. So again, you can see the continuum of those different faculty engagement pieces as far as your understanding of what quality is. And again, that has to link back to your strategy for your organization. Is your organization going to use online education as a significant strategic element of your organization, or is it going to be seen as an accessory that needs to be managed and afterthought? So something that has to be considered from both of those perspectives.
And also, depending on your client, you have to think about the synchronous or asynchronous.
How many of you are using Synchronous in your online classrooms now? Good, excellent. So there is that. And again, depending again on who your students are. If you've got students overseas in Afghanistan, trying to have a synchronous learning environment is going to be very difficult, trying to get them to show up at 7 o'clock at night when it's 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning their time. So again, you got to take that into consideration as well.
So at our university, it's not mandatory, but it's highly recommended. And when somebody is overseas like that, they can listen to the archive presentation at a later date. But instructors usually assign them to make comments on the discussion board so that there is some interaction there, because during the live chat portion, there is a lot of interaction between students and faculty, and then allowing those international students or those students that are overseas, stationed overseas, to interact in the discussion board still keeps that interaction going. So alignment with what the institution is very important. Casey Green yesterday said that one of the biggest challenges was the vision, mission, and congruency there. And so teaching demands are, depending on what the university or institution has set up, how often do faculty interact? I know that in our program, there's lots of interaction throughout the time and through the discussion boards, and faculty are expected to respond to emails within 24 hours. And there's, you know, the live chat portion once a week, and the discussion board, and posting to the discussion board.
Now, note on that, Cindy, is that we don't have a specific time. In other words, I know that some institutions have a requirement. Every faculty member will go into every course every single day. Other organizations say, as long as you go in there and respond to the discussions, you can go in once or twice a week. Other institutions are very specific about the maximum number of time you can be outside of the classroom. Just out of curiosity, does anybody here have a specific rule and a spot check on that the faculty have to go in there into every class every single day? No? How about one? Okay.
Within 24 hours of the deadline of the assignment.
Oh, within this assignment. So if the assignment wasn't due until Sunday, they had to all day Monday, so they didn't have to be Saturday or Friday or anything. So, yep.
We have two separate requirements. Instructors are required to answer emails and message inquiries within 24 hours.
Right.
But their active participation in forums is more of a three times a week.
Okay.
Don't let more than X number of days pass. And we do spot check. We look
Okay.
at the participation.
Spot checking on that. Okay. Who's responsible for the spot checking, just out of curiosity?
As the director, that's me.
Okay. So how many faculty do you have?
Right now, we're relatively small. We only have 10
Okay.
faculty and online.
So when you grow to 50, maybe you'll have some help?
Well, yes.
Yeah, okay. Good.
We hope. Budget permitting.
That's right.
So the institution should be setting the instructor's expectations so that everybody has an understanding of what's expected out of them, and there's some consistency with your online courses. Is the course aligned with the level of students? So grade level, upper, lower division, or graduate? You have to think about international students. Students with prior life and work experience. So as we were talking before about that one-room classroom, the students that come into that, you have all different levels. And so you have to have an understanding of who your students are and at what level they're at. And then you have to think about how does that course contribute to the overall degree outcomes.
Mm-hmm. One of the items there on the course alignment is that you've got to have the differentiation in the courses as well. We at CLU have had some students that said, you know what, I took a business statistics course at the undergraduate level, and when I got to the graduate level, they used the same book. How is that possible? So again, you've got to not only have them aligned, but you've got to make sure that they have a differentiation, and that's where the collaboration between the undergraduate and the graduate faculty have got to come together and say, what is that continuum? What do we want them to achieve at the undergraduate level and the graduate level? And it's a difficult synthesis because sometimes you're going to get a graduate student that comes into the MBA program with no prior experience in statistics or other quantitative or other qualitative areas. And how do you manage them along with people who may have had business as an undergraduate? So again, that managing of the various levels of students is a challenge. Again, not only for online, but also for traditional grounded classes as well. We've done very well as far as that goes because we've established a foundations level course that they have not had that previous experience that not everybody has to take.
And it's been a big improvement since we've set out having those foundation courses. So the instructor doesn't have students all over the place because it makes it a little more difficult.
Yes?
How do you determine who has to take those foundation courses?
Ashley, do you want to address that?
The admissions office works with the program director.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ashley is our quality person for our graduate level programs in the general MBA. Cindy?
Yeah, it's within the admission process, and that's where their files and transcripts are from their undergrad studies, and so those things are reviewed. And at that point in time, the director of the program makes the decision on whether or not this student needs foundation courses or not. And we have 3 or 4 foundations, 3 foundations courses. So it's business communication, which is a course that a lot of international students end up taking as they come in. And then there's the quantitative course and
Economics.
economics.
All right, we wanted to talk a little bit about the quality control here, and from an institutional perspective, who is responsible for the quality of each one of the classes that you have, or the program overall? Do you have a single point of contact that controls the entire online program? And that can get pretty onerous if it becomes quite a large program, depending, again, on the strategy of the organization. Or is it something that is managed at a much lower level by the departmental chairs, or even at the individual faculty member level? So again, understanding what level is going to be responsible for the quality, and how do you go about doing those checks there? What does a spot check consist of? How often should you do that? I was in the Navy for 22 years, and we had a program where we had to do specific and regular checks on aircraft before we would let them fly. Do you have those kind of spot checks in your classes before you let your classes fly? It's important to make sure that they're all up to speed and meeting your student learning outcomes before you ever let them get off the ground, so to speak. And of course, nowadays with the various LMSs, especially with Moodle, you can go in there and find out how often do the faculty interact with the students, how often are they into the various discussion areas, the different points in the classes, so technology can save you a lot of time for that. I've not found a program yet that actually sends me an alarm if a faculty member has gone 7 days and not gone in there for X amount of times yet, but I'm sure it's on the horizon. It's probably not going to be far away. And you'll be able to, maybe it'll even send an automatic message to the faculty member. It says, you know what, you've been out of the how many of you, have anybody here seen a program like that yet, or used a program like that, automated? Your program does?
Well, Campus Cruiser as a portal
Okay.
has custom alarms which include a number of days of inactivity
Okay.
that can be put on groups of your population,
Okay.
say faculty.
All right. Tim, do you know if Moodle's coming out with anything like that, or?
Not probably.
Okay. All right. So again, using technology can help you out as well. But again, somebody's still got to manage that and make sure that technology does not fail us, because we know that it's infallible, right? All right. So here are some of the checkpoints for a quality online classroom experience. Cindy?
Yeah, so engagement and interaction, I think, is so important. And if yesterday at one of the, and I think it was David Kleinfelter that had mentioned how interaction, and that was one of the top things that he was talking about, was how as of importance is interaction and engagement. How applicable is what the student's learning, you know. Flexibility, that's a lot, one of the main reasons that a lot of students are taking online is that flexibility and ease of navigation. Clear expectations. One of the things that most of our faculty do is before class starts, they post expectations in the discussion board. And each student has to go in and sign off that they've read those expectations. So they have a good understanding as what is expected out of them during this course. And everybody's on the same plate, knowing what their expectations are. So a student can't come to you later and say, you know, I didn't know I was supposed to post in the discussion board every week. What, you know, I didn't get all those credits or those points toward my grade. So those are some of the things that we do. And then discussions have to be relevant and understandable. Faculty have to be trained on the technology. At our university, we depend on Learning House to train our faculty. But also we have a faculty member on campus that supports each one of our new faculty as they're starting out, so that they're not an island out there. They have some support, and it's important to support those people. Align, of course, to the major. We kind of talked about that earlier. Administrative issues. I help out faculty quite a bit with some of those administrative issues. I'll get a phone call from a faculty who might tell me about a student who's running into some problems, might have a personal problem. As a matter of fact, I had one today where one of our students whose mother had a stroke, and his mother is the primary caregiver for his child. And so that puts another layer on it. And this student is not going to be able to finish the course this term. And so how's that instructor going to handle that? How am I going to handle that with the student? whether we give him an incomplete, give him extra time to finish that course, or do we let him withdraw from the course, give him a letter of credit so that he can use that for the next time he takes a class. And those are some of the issues that faculty may run up against, and then they have support from me on how the institution will deal with those problems that students run into. Because the faculty is usually the first person to hear about what issues are developing for particular students. And then engaging students. Faculty are trained on how engaging students, and usually that comes a lot from the faculty mentor.
When we talk about engaging students, don't forget, we're not just talking about engaging students in the classroom. At CLU, we do a concerted effort to include them even outside of the classroom. Not just engagement as far as your learning experience in this particular course, but as a member of the CLU community overall. And they've done a very good job on establishing lounges for the students to go into and talk about issues, or have a discussion on how do they get around some of the administrative issues that come up. So there are other resources available for them that engage them. We have some of our students in our adult degree evening program that actually are assigned as I don't want to say a mentor, but they use tuition reimbursement from the university to establish a program where they call first term students up and about halfway through the term and say, how are things going? Are you having any problems getting into the library? What kind of issues are you running into? And they know the faculty members as well. So again, you got to pick somebody who knows a little bit about the system and is willing to be able to spend some time calling people up from the office there that can help out. So engaging students from that perspective outside the classroom can really make a big difference in their overall experience in the college experience. Right? We want them to have a full college experience. Granted, maybe they're, since they're in France, they can't come to one of your football games or something like that, and maybe they can't play lacrosse, but there's other ways to get engaged with those particular things there. I know that University of Pennsylvania has, I think, what they call a World University or World Classroom, where they have a virtual classroom and a virtual campus, where you establish an avatar, and you can go walking around the campus to the various things that are on the campus and set up a virtual meeting with a counselor who also has an avatar there, all on your computer. So that engagement piece, that experience of the college, university, also contributes to the quality experience of the students overall.
And building community is so important, because you want these students to be connected to your university even after they're gone. And I've seen where I've had a student in the Atlanta area and a student in Southern California, and they built such a friendship that they've even flown to each other's homes and stayed at their homes at different times. So community is really important, and these students communicate with each other, maybe in a student lounge or whatever, but faculty is key to helping to build that community. When we had graduation a couple years ago, we had we bring our students to campus for graduation. I don't mean that we fly them in or anything, but we do provide hotel accommodations for them. And somebody from development came and attended some of the events that we had for these students. And when she was finished with this lunch that we had, she came up to me and she goes, I can't believe it. I think your students are more connected to CLU than the students that are on campus that graduated from the MBA program, because she saw what a community was built, and she saw the interaction between the students and the faculty and the administration, and was just blown away by that community.
Yes.
Are these degree completion working adults type students, or are they different that you're referring to right now?
Yes, both.
They're adult degree MBA students.
Yeah, some of them have gone straight out of the undergraduate program and going right into their graduate program at CLU. Other ones are coming back after a hiatus for life events. And as far as the adult degree evening program, these are folks who have some college credit and they're coming back to finish up their degree using non-traditional credits as well as the classes that we offer.
And they've been responding to your events outside of class?
Correct.
Well,
Yep.
okay, good.
All right, I want to talk very quickly about what we did when we first established our program. at the ADEP program. Cindy's program has been up and running for about 4 years already, and we decided to put an organizational leadership program online since it had been successful as far as the grounded course. When we first met with Learning House, and they said, well, what program do you want to put up? And I said, well, I'm not really sure. We were thinking about establishing a new program and using that as our online experience at the undergraduate level. And they said, take a successful one that's already successful and grounded and move that over to your online aspect, because you've already got the faculty there and you've already got some metrics of success. So we did that. In the first class that we did, I was the faculty member for all 3 classes. I had an ADEP class, Adult Degree Evening Completion Program in the evenings. I had traditional students, which was a 15-week class, met 3 times a week. And then I had an online class, all the same class. I wanted to get rid of as many possible variables that could confound the outcomes as I possibly could. So three sets of delivery methods, one for adult students, one for traditional students, and then the online students. And I wanted to compare and see what the quality levels were across those. You can see again, I had 45 in the 2 grounded courses and 27 in the online class. And then we compared the course evaluations. How many of you use online course evaluations, just out of curiosity? Anybody still using pen and paper ones? Nobody's using pen and paper ones? Okay. We struggled with that for a long time, and I'm sure the faculty at your institutions probably had some gnashing of teeth over the overall course evaluation debacle and what they're used for. So, but it was a stable metric that we wanted to take a look at. They all had the same questions. They all had the same assignments. They all had the same videos. They all had the same books that they used. So we reduced as many variables as we possibly could. Here is, again, don't worry about reading this. They're on the next slide, so I know that not many of you can probably read that there. But this just gives you a comparison on a possible maximum of 5, how those 3 courses equated out along those different areas there. Not a whole bunch of difference across, and in some areas the grounded class did better. In some areas the traditional class did better. In some areas the online class did better. But I was pleased to see that it was relatively constant. It didn't vary by much over a half of a point across the entire, so 10% variance across the entire aspect of that particular course there. The actual questions here, we had questions about the syllabus and the mechanics of the course itself. Grading policies, course readings were helpful, course structure to foster active student participation, and then I had a mean for course mechanics overall. I also had a mean for in this course, such as in this course I was challenged to analyze and evaluate. In this course the classroom activities were appropriate, examining ideas and those kind of things. So again, we had an aspect of the content there. So we had mechanics of the course, the content itself, and then an evaluation of the faculty member, which was me. So we had a possibility to see if maybe there was a different perspective of the faculty member across the various delivery methods as well. And as we go back to that particular graph, you can see there wasn't a whole bunch of change there. It was not a whole bunch of change. So again, just leading more support to, online courses are at least as good as, in some cases, better than traditional undergraduate or ADEP or graduate level courses. Again, we have some quality control tools that we take a look at, and I'm going to let Cindy talk about those. Any questions on that chart before I move forward? Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
The red was online, correct? What was your logo there?
This one here?
Yes.
This was grading policies were clear.
Okay.
Yep.
And what was the, let's see, the red that's higher also?
This one here?
Third one.
That was course readings and or other materials were helpful to my learning experience. So again, those were the same materials that they got across all 3. So you can see even that had different perspectives across the board there.
What do you think the grading issue was? Did they just not read the?
I think,
Is it so text-driven? Online is text-driven. So you
yeah.
have to read and read and read.
Well, I think it was the opportunity. The grounded class, my backup support system for the discussions and those kind of things was Blackboard. So I think that maybe the difference in the 2 learning platforms might have been a little bit different there as far as the ability to go in there and check on your grade, as far as that perspective. That may have been one of the variables that contributed to that. Other questions on the chart or the experiment, so to speak? Yes.
About this one in the high purple.
The high purple one here, course readings and or other materials were helpful to my learning experience.
Next one.
Oh, the 4th one? The course was structured to foster active student participation. Good, so again, that's on campus and online, was right in there with the overall program overall. Other questions on that chart? Yes?
The other 2 high purple.
Let's see, this one was The teacher used effective teaching methods, and the teacher was available for consultation. Anything else? All right. Cindy.
Okay, so quality control tools. Define what a quality online course means at your institution. And I think you know pretty much what the quality you want to provide. You know what quality you want to provide in an on-campus class, and then just taking it into an online and keeping those quality high. Online faculty meetings. And that's one thing that we've been doing for a while now. Every term, we schedule an online faculty meeting. And what we do is we order pizzas for our faculty. And we have faculty who are experts in their particular endeavor, and they live all over the country. So when I say ordering pizza, I'm ordering a pizza from Southern California to be delivered in Atlanta, Georgia, a pizza to be in California to be sent to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And so we have faculty all over the country. We order pizza, and then we set up a meeting in Adobe Connect.
Is the pizza still warm when it gets here?
Yeah, because we go to the local place in Ann Arbor.
It's not FedEx.
Yeah. And what we do also is we invite a different faculty member every term to present on best practices in online teaching. And everybody has a different way of doing a particular way of teaching and getting that interaction going. One time we had an instructor discuss how he took a case study and took it from the beginning of the term all the way through, and how that worked well for him. And other things that other faculty members might adapt to their particular online class. And so it's a great way of sharing and keeping the faculty engaged also. We have review students' evaluation on a regular basis. We provide feedback to the instructor. The instructor has access to the reviews, but then the director also points things out, and we discuss on how to make improvements with the faculty member, and maybe the faculty member will say, I read this review, I think I'm going to try this next time. So it's a collaboration on how to improve on a regular basis. We also request external program reviews every 3 to 5 years. And when we did the program review for the MBA in Financial Planning program, we had 2 reviews. We had a review from a faculty member at another institution who was an expert in this particular endeavor, financial planning. And we also had a review by somebody who's an expert in online learning. And so we did both in our program, and then got feedback on both. And it was a wonderful way of integrating, having that high-level online learning and having that high-level financial planning program.
And I think that's really important. I mean, we, as a conference, one of the best things that I find from the conference, of course, is the networking. The networking that you get to do is at least as good as the conference presentations themselves. So your networking, it gives you the availability to pick somebody from outside to come in and take a look at your program and say, you know what, you're doing a great job here, but maybe you could boost this area up a little bit here. This is how we're doing this particular area here. So getting somebody from outside increases the accreditation probabilities as well. Because I know for WASC, they want to see external program reviews. How many of you have a standard external program review for your organizations? Okay, a couple. Okay, so again, having somebody come in from outside and it costs you maybe a couple $1,000s to fly them out, put them up for a couple days, have them talk to students, and get a really good report from outside is invaluable. Because we all have blinders on. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We all have a specific way we like to see things. And when we have that paradigm of what our online program should look like, we have a tendency to discount anybody else's. But having them come in and take a look and see is always valuable to us.
You know, and you're talking about conferences. That's how I met the person who did our review for our online program. Is I went to the U.S. Distance Learning Association conference, connected with this gentleman, and then invited him to the university. You had a question?
Who actually organizes or oversees your
It's the director of the program, and mainly, and he helps pull the agenda together, gets input from instructors and from us, administration, and then we go from there. But it's mainly to the director.
Would you consider that like an online teaching support group of sorts, or?
Oh, I would say it's definitely a support group, and it's a great way for our faculty to connect with each other, because it's terrible to be an island out there, and when you have somebody that you can bounce things off of and connect with. We have, like I said, I have an instructor in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I have an instructor in Southern California, and through them meeting together and talking, they're running within 2 courses, they're integrating, let's see, a project together. So part of the project is run in one class, and the completion of the project is run in the other. And without having them connect online every so often, that friendship didn't start, that connection didn't start. And so it makes our program so much better.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a program-specific learning community, not all of your online adjuncts at once. Program-specific?
That's
This is
correct.
program specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gives us the opportunity to tell them about any policy changes, any changes, and explain and get their feedback as well on what they, many times our adjunct faculty don't just teach for us, they teach in several places. So we're getting the value of having them come in and bring in those other experiences back to Cal Lutheran, and so we can take a look and see maybe we want to adopt some of the changes as well.
And some of our online instructors teach at other institutions. And sometimes they can say, I've done this at this institution, and this really works. Can we try it here? And it's a great way. It's a great way. Do you have a question?
Yeah, just curious, is that optional to the faculty members, or is it part of a requirement?
Is the meeting optional? We try and make it a requirement, but life happens. We archive the meetings so that they can go back and watch it later on, which is always helpful when you're using Adobe Connect. The highly encouraged, I guess, would be the best way to say that. Just like you get an in-group and an out-group, and some faculty members they just want to teach and just leave me alone. I don't want to do anything else. And they may be a very good faculty member doing that, but they still need to participate in the community overall.
Are you using video for that?
We use Adobe Connect
Right.
to do our.
Video?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Video.
Webcam?
Yep. Did I see another hand in the back there? Yes, sir.
Do you do a face-to-face program review?
We do. For my program review for the adult degree evening program, I flew out I forget the name of it, but they were from Grand Valley State all the way to California, and they stayed there and met with students, met with faculty, met with administration, and then provided a very comprehensive report on what they saw and what they recommended.
And the same for this program. We had them come to the university. We provided them lots of information before they came, and then they're ready once they come in and meet with all the key people at the university.
Follow-up question, you said that it was a U.S. distance learning.
Association.
They're the ones that do your external review for your online?
No, I met somebody at that conference who has been in distance learning for a long time. And by meeting him, he was the person we chose to come to our university and review our online program.
Do you know if that program review is validated or approved or rubber stamped by your accrediting agency, whatever it is?
They look to see that we have done those. What we do with them is really not a WASC concern. They just want to make sure that we have got somebody coming in and taking a look at our programs to continue to improve them and do something with the data that we get back. We have to type up a response which gets read all the way up to the president's level. Yes.
Do any of your programs require internships, and how are they?
Internships for students we don't require internships for our students, but we do have some things in place where we're working with companies for internships with our students. And some of that includes us training our students in some of the things that they'll be utilizing when they go to work as an intern at that company. One particular thing is we've set up an online course to train in a particular software that those students, when they go to as an intern at that company, they'll train through us on using that particular software. And so we're gearing them up so that when they go as an intern, they're successful as an intern. But we don't require internships. A lot of our students are working already in the field. About half of our students are working in the field already. And so.
Yeah, and we are moving more towards an experiential learning philosophy, if you will, which is going to have a service learning component as part of that. So we're very big on making sure that people are doing what we teach them to do as part of the learning process, even online. So, other questions before we move on to the next one? All right, I was going to have you guys do some small group work, but I was on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, and they said that that was the most dangerous place in the world. But I think that the most dangerous place in the world is between a group of people and lunch. So I'm just going to put the question out there. How many of you, what would be one indicator that you would have of quality in your online programs? In other words, what do you look for to make sure that you have quality? Just one thing. All right, we've got to get 3 people to respond, and then I'll let you go to lunch. Yes. Yes, sir.
I was going to say it's more of a proactive thing. We have a formal certification process for our online instructors.
Okay, so a certification process. How often do they have to go through the process?
So far, I think only once, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so a formal process.
One of the measurements after the fact is their success in subsequent courses that relied on that course.
Okay.
If that's a prerequisite for something else, how successful are they, and especially in a hybrid campus environment, comparative?
Sure. That's a good point. My background is in industrial psychology, and we deal a lot with predictors and criterion. And one of the things that I looked for when I was the director of the ADEP program was, how are my students being successful after they leave my program? So we do a follow-up alum survey every couple of years to find out if the classes were actually contributing to their ability to do the job in the field. And again, it's a self-report assessment, but it does give us a metric at some level to find out. So that is, again, a way of making sure that the quality in the program, not just the online aspect, but the content itself is actually contributing to their ability to be successful once they got out there. And we're going to see a lot more of that, I think, as we hear more from our friends at the Department of Education. So, one more. Yes, sir.
The quality of the content of the course, their assignments, the rubrics for grading the assignments are all aligned and rigorous and well thought out.
And who makes sure that those are rigorous and well thought out? The administration does, or senior faculty?
And even learning house does too.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to share as far as what they look for as far as quality? Or how many of you have taken an online course? Okay. What was the best online course you had, and why was it the best one?
You've already identified it, instructor engagement.
Okay, so you look for instructor engagement. And again, that's a metric that you can go out there and take a look at. What else?
That's
The fidelity of the assignments.
The which one?
The fidelity.
The fidelity of the assignments, okay. Somebody in the back?
The best online course I have taken, and I'm not saying this being I would criticize if it were the case, but it was one of the online best practices courses at Learning House. And I would say the reasons why were a lot of thought went into varying the assessment, and that's good for online, cheating prevention and all that
Right.
too in other courses, but you weren't doing the same thing, in just different subjects and things like that. I thought that was good, and then the instructor feedback, although she was very, very busy in her personal life, she was, because we had a little introductory thing at the beginning. She was all over the discussion boards and really good stuff. So
Okay. All right. Well, how do those things that you guys identified as being contributing to your best online class go back to the one-room classroom? Where is the similarities of there? And I would ask you to, it's not something that you can probably answer right now, but to reflect upon your own programs and ask yourself, if this was a one-room classroom, would it meet our quality criteria? What exactly are we looking for as far as quality goes? Many, many different things out there. Just like I mentioned at the beginning, you might take a look at how much capacity that the gas tank has. You might take a look at how fast it goes, what the braking capacity is. All those different things might contribute to your perspective of quality. But at the bottom line is, the customer is the one who determines what the quality is. Who is your customer? Is it your accrediting agency? Is it your students? Is it the faculty? Who exactly is your customer? That's probably the final thing I would say. The actual final thing I'm going to say is, how many times did we use that word? And what was that word at the beginning?
Volumizing.
Volumizing. How many times we use it? Excellent. How many times did I meet your expectations as far as that goes? Again, a way of engaging. How many you're listening for that particular word, and students are going to be looking for particular things in your course. If you don't meet them, you could make or break that particular student's experience in that course. Cindy, any final words?
No, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We enjoyed presenting.